It is the spooky time of the year, and you know what? I love Halloween. It's my favorite holiday, and even way back when I started the channel, in fact, the first October, I made a video for every single day. And some of them were 2 minutes long, some of them were 10 minutes long. But way back when, the early, before I even had 100 subscribers, I took the time to do that. It was fun, and I'm never gonna do that again. But I've done the classic Halloween videos with video gaming, right? What's the cool Halloween levels of games? Kingdom Hearts, Sonic Adventure 2. But I was thinking about it this year, thinking about doing something different, talking about Halloween or maybe scary stuff in games, maybe horror, maybe not, but that just doesn't quite belong. There's some stuff out there, I think, that it seems forced, maybe not quite right, but I don't know. Let's go on this adventure together and see what you guys think. But here's a couple little handful of some kind of spooky, Halloweeny, horror-y type things in games that maybe shouldn't be there. Horror can cross different genres, different games, and some people really know how to do it right. A great example, Halo 1. Halo 1 is an action first-person shooter about aliens and, fighting through a whole cosmic space opera. And then halfway through the game, you hit the flood, right? And then it turns into a straight-up survival horror. I would say that Halo is a great example of how you can really incorporate horror into a game that isn't really necessarily a horror game. But then you have some, these other examples. I think it's fitting to start this list off with one of the most iconic games of all time. Zelda, right? Ocarina of Time. I mean, heck, it's one of my favorite games, and for most people, it's top 3. But there's something that just kind of sits a little weird with this one. Zelda is no stranger to spooky bad guys, bats, skeletons. I mean, hell, they have had skeletons since the beginning of the series in the first game. But I will say that specifically in Ocarina of Time, the skeletons in Hyrule Field seem a little weird. First off, I mean, look at them. They got the goofiest, Koopa Troopa skull ever. They're not like the regular skeletons. But then again, they also just pop out here as a deterrent to be out at night. To me, that's always sat kind of strange, because there's not a graveyard here. There's no real reason for that to happen, except for that mechanic. And, I'm actually willing to say that there's a better enemy that could fit this role, and that is those pea-hat plants. Those things are terrifying, right? I mean, you've seen them. Just imagine that you're out in Hyrule Field, creeping along, it's a little bit too late, and all of a sudden, all of them that are in the field take off at the same time and just charge you. That, to me, is reason enough to get out of there. And I think that would be a better, more fitting enemy, because like I said, the skeletons without a graveyard or any dungeon being, tied to them just seems a little off. If there was ever a choice on this list that's gonna get blasted in the comments, it's gonna be this one. But stick with me here, because I have a good reason for why I think this one's kind of weird, doesn't really fit the game. But we're gonna be talking about Castlevania. We're gonna be talking about Symphony of the Night. I know. Castlevania is no stranger to, obviously, scary movie tropes. I mean, hell, the very first game has mummies as the bad guy. And even then, growing up playing this, I was always did Dracula just, roll up to, the freaking Egyptian store? It was yo, bro, I'll take 2. It doesn't make any sense to me. But I can throw that aside. I can throw away all the other stuff because it kind of fits in. The one thing that has never, ever fit in for me personally, especially because it's in Symphony of the Night, is Frankenstein's the monster. They call it the creature in this game. But Frankenstein's monster, he looks weird. He rolls around weird. And, it doesn't even make sense, out of context. I mean, Frankenstein's monster is a tragic creature that was, made from a bunch of different body parts and misunderstood, and the villagers, attacked him, and then he freaked out and attacked them back. The fact that he's in this castle guarding it, items or a room, has never made sense to me. He looks like a joke, they've overly made his head huge. It's just one of those enemies, one of those bosses that, man, you can fit a lot of stuff into Castlevania, but this one, I don't think the juice was worth the squeeze. I've always thought that this particular boss was dumb, and I always just think it did not quite fit in with everything else. So, growing up playing this game, I was always very confused about this boss. This boss is terrifying, but it's weird the game it's in, and it's weird the level it's in. But I don't know. Let's go into the world of Donkey Kong 64. So, Donkey Kong 64, love it or hate it, is a collectathon from Rare, and it's probably the collectathon that killed the idea of collectathons because they really made you backtrack a little bit too much. And, just like all the other levels, Frantic Factory is quite a gauntlet. Frantic Factory, though, is a cool level. I mean, it's King K. Rool's, Captain K. Rool's factory, a lot of moving parts, mechanical whatsits and have-yous. But the thing that really stands out here is the boss. It's like this terrifying, robotic, jack-in-the-box duck. Does all sorts of crazy stuff. Has like a Terminator laser eye, can turn invisible. It is like weird, and there is nothing at all in this level that really points to like, oh yeah, this factory, it makes robotic, evil duck robots. Like, nothing like that. There's no enemies that are like this. Nothing leads you up to this like weirdly, oddly terrifying boss. It just never fit right to me, especially because Rare always kind of hits the motif pretty good. And this one, it just seems strange. Like, I feel like, you could be fighting, some kind of machinery, or maybe even like something more robotic. But this thing isn't even like a robot in the sense that, like it would be at the factory. This is just a terrifying, odd thing that really does not fit the level. This is another one you're gonna have to kind of follow me on because it really doesn't make sense, but it's one of those things where in the heat of playing the game, you maybe didn't think this doesn't make sense, but outside looking in, this one's pretty strange. Let's check out a specific boss in Sonic Adventure 2. So in a previous Halloween video, I talked about Sonic Adventure 2, and I talked about Pumpkin Hill, how it's awesome, it's a great Halloween level. I like to revisit it every year, and you should too. But Pumpkin Hill has ghosts that pop out, right? And they pop out and they scare you, they don't do damage, they just kind of blast you away. And maybe you can chalk that up to some kind of trick by Robotnik, some kind of hologram or something. Because if you think about it, nothing in any Sonic game up to this point was supernatural at all. Everything you've always fought was a robot, a Badnik or something from Gun, but there is no anything else. There's Chaos, I guess, which was kind of like a weird, gelatinous monster. But once again, there's no supernatural, there's no anything else. And then you have King Boom Boo, or Boo Boom. And it's really weird, because, in the heat of the moment, you've kind of played Pumpkin Hill, you've gone through this temple, okay, now I'm gonna fight a giant ghost. But, like, does that make sense? Like, there's never been a ghost. You always fight robots. And this is, like, straight up a ghost. You hit his tail, and then he turns into a shadow, and then you dig into his shadow. Nowhere else is there this weird scenario. Nowhere else do you fight a supernatural creature. And, like, Knuckles just like, yeah, okay, it's a ghost, whatever. Like, I don't know. It's... Like I said, when you're playing the game and you're going through the story, it just doesn't feel like it is jarring, but really look at it and really kind of realize how much this, enemy, this boss, really makes absolutely no sense. Now for my last choice, I don't want to feel nitpicky, but this one always stood out to me as a very cool boss, but also in the concept of the world it's in, kind of a nonsensical one. But hey, stick with me here. Let's jump into Mega Man X4. So the boss I'm talking about is the Sigma boss, and how his first form is the Grim Reaper. And hey, before we start jumping off the rails, I am all for a robotic Grim Reaper. Death Scythe is the coolest Gundam. But I will say that the boss here, Sigma as a Grim Reaper in the first form, really is kind of extremely nonsensical, right? So you're in Mega Man X world, where everyone is a robot or a Reploid, like there are no humans anymore. And the whole point of the Grim Reaper, right, is to take your soul and like ferry it on to the afterlife. So robots don't have souls. Why would they even have this concept? Like, why would there be this thought process of like, oh man, what would be really dope if I was the Grim Reaper? I have a scythe and like a cloak, and I, take Mega Man's soul. Like, it's cool, don't get me wrong, like, it's super duper cool. But putting yourself in that world, like, it really doesn't make any sense. Like, you would never even think this up, like, if you lived on a planet that didn't have water, you wouldn't create a submarine. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So if you live in a world where you're a robot and the concept of souls and afterlives is completely nonsensical, the Grim Reaper really does not make sense. Once again, super cool boss, weird weakness that you have to literally burn his cloak with fire, but, you know, really, really just nonsensical. So those were just a few examples of kind of weird enemies in the spooky kind of vein that, to me, don't quite fit where they belong. I mean, like, I get where they're coming from, but they're just not quite there. I know my list is polarizing, but that's the whole fun of this kind of thing. So let me know down below what you guys think of my list, but also, this list was kind of hard to make. Like, I had the thought for this video, and, you know, I was like, you know, I'm gonna knock this out of the park. I'm gonna get a couple. And after 5, I was kind of like, what else can I really put on here? So I'm really interested to know what I missed. So if you guys can think of anything, please put that down below. But hey, you know, let me know. Let me know what you guys think. Because some of these times, it's like the creators of the games just like put stuff in for the sake of putting stuff in. And, you know, when you really think about it, does it make sense? But hey, that's going to do it for us today, guys. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for subscribing. If you haven't, please do. Have a happy Halloween. I'm going to go watch a scary movie right now. Actually, I'm going to edit this video, but then I'm going to go watch a scary movie. But as always, my friends, take it easy.